Hi guys, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Doing great. Love that we all decided to wear glasses today for this interview. But one of the things I like about the movie, which is in the trailer, is the talk about the New York apartments. Coming from my New York apartment, it's really nice to kind of see the recognition of like life in New York, no matter what age you end up living in the city at. And so for you guys, what was it like to film such a New York movie like under Edward Burns' vision and getting to bring New York to life in that way?
Well, I wasn't in that scene where you had the fun talk about the apartments, but I remember each and every one of my little hovels. And it was fun to come back. I mean, I was so overjoyed to receive the script and think about work locally because
Mhm.
it's not top of the list. I mean, the writing and the directing and all of those things are, and the character and all of those things are obviously super important. But when you add in that element of, and it's based in New York, or we're going to be shooting in and around New York and New Jersey, I'm mostly in, I'm probably mostly just because it's so rare and also to be shooting on locations. We did actually shoot a lot in New Jersey for some of these locations, but um, it's that's another thing, like not being on a lot or um, in a studio. It's just so much more. It feels like there's so much more texture there. So it was exciting.
What about for you, Julianna? I know you've done other things in New York, but how was it getting to kind of bring this version of New York to life?
Well, I think it's a bit of a love letter to New York, and I think it's how Ed feels about New York,
Hmm.
which I feel the same way. So, um, even though we had to shoot a lot of it in New Jersey because of tax incentives, I was also blown away at how beautiful New Jersey is. I had never given it that much attention or time, and it's right across the river. So from where I live, and I would come home at night and I'd be like, "Oh my God, honey, New Jersey's gorgeous." So Um, but it is a love letter to New York. And I love that scene where we're all talking about our first apartments and the rat and how to deal with it because that was me.
Hmm.
I mean, my first apartment, I couldn't afford New York City when I graduated college and we moved to Brooklyn, which now my nieces can't afford. Um, but my very first apartment was above a Chinese restaurant on 87th and 3rd Street, Third Avenue. And the amount of mice and cockroaches was so horrific that I called 311 and complained. And they said, "Let me guess, you live above a Chinese restaurant." And I didn't eat Chinese food for 10 years after that. And I got ER pretty quick. So I could have eaten Chinese food at a nice place, but it was just the smell and the idea of it was so upsetting. So I've lived in so many different apartments in New York, that for me, it just that scene rang true. Um, I mean, I remember trying to figure out how do we catch the mice? Like, what should we do? Do we get the peanut butter? Do we get the traps? If we get the traps, then who's going to take it out to the garbage? And this is a New York story.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I had to help a neighbor recently, and she's wanted the emotional support of someone there as she
Oh,
removed a rat from her house.
yeah,
So, like,
it's
I get it. But it's so funny because that was the most New York statement about New Jersey. It's like New Jersey's beautiful. I didn't think about New Jersey.
ever.
But you also both get to have like romantic scenes or romances with two like musical theater dudes. And so I think that's also a very fun like New York addition because it's Patrick Wilson and Brian Darcy James. When
Yeah.
you guys were like first hearing about this screenplay and talking with Ed about the cast, what was the most exciting part about like getting to all work together and like build this friend group all out?
Oh, each time a new name came on board, or, every time, first of all, he has such amazing taste in actors. But, and then of course, he was going from the sort of well of wonderful New York based actors who all have experience. We're all kind of around the same generation, seen the same things, know the trajectories. And so it was just, I think, such a draw to know that you're going to be in great company every day when you show up. Your scene partner is, I mean, I was so excited to work with everyone I got to work with on this. And I hadn't really played scenes with any of them. And it was like we didn't have a lot of rehearsal, but everybody just showed up ready to work. Also excited about this kind of work on an independent film where you're really going to play a scene and from start to finish, and there's nothing gonna, it's not going to take a ton of time because they're like, you have this amount of time and we don't have any special effects to deal with or anything. So it was just a very kind of familial environment where
Mhm.
I sort of knew who everybody was and I knew how talented everybody was, but I hadn't really worked individually with everybody. So it was like discovering that, and having those conversations, and everything that we had time for on this small budgeted time of a film was really special. And I
Yeah.
think resulted in something special as well.
Yeah, I think it's a very sweet movie. I can't wait for everyone to get to see it. And thank you both so much for talking with me today. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Rachel.
Thank you.
Thank you
Okay.
guys. Have a great one.